Let's talk about profiling your customers with attitudinal and psychographic or cluster coding data. Remember, we had some examples of this. We had some attitudes and opinions. Here is a bank example on a 5-point scale from 1 to 5 with, agree to disagree. We would ask people questions about their attitudes towards banks. A local bank is more likely to lend me money. I rely on my banker's advice about managing money. There is never enough time to study all the financial alternatives. I enjoy going to the lobby to do my banking business, etc., etc. When we did this, we came up with some segments and profiles. And of course, the 4 that we came up in the banking business were worried traditionalists, bank loyalists, secured investors, and thrifty bankers. Another example of attitudes and opinions is in the area of energy conservation. We asked customers, homeowners, how careful they were about their energy usage. And, both in terms of activities, I use a water heater jacket and pipe wraps, and I installed energy efficient ventilation or air conditioning system. And also other attitudes where I should probably cut back on how much energy I use. I'm careful about how much energy I use, etc. In this case, we came up with segments and profiles that included apathetics, proactives, receptives, and comforts, and found that receptives and comforts were a little bit over 60% of all of those potential customers. Some other attitudes and opinions kinds of questions that we might ask. One is in the area of goals and aspirations. These were career goals and aspirations on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side here, we have some examples of the kinds of online content that I find personally relevant. And once again, we ask people about information that they might find relevant. And once again, more attitudes and opinion examples to help us build a profile of our customer base. Another one would be, for instance, Gen Z influences when purchasing a subscription service, things that influence these people. And you might notice here that that recommendations from friends, social media reviews, special subscription offers, and a subscription service that sponsors events I support were all relatively influential in selecting a subscription service. Now, on the other side of this are lifestyles and psychographic cluster coding. This is where we try to add lifestyle and psychographic information to the customer database to put a more 360-degree, more texture to our particular profile that we have for each one of our customers. Today, I'd like to just talk about 2 examples of this. One is Experian's Mosaic, and the other is Claritas's version of Prizm, which is another psychographic cluster coding approach. So Mosaic is a cross-channel consumer classification system which segments the population into 15 different groups and 66 different types that helps the company or firm to understand an individual's likely customer behavior. This has information for 126 million households with 19 overarching groups, 71 underlying types, 300 plus customer view data points, along with 800 lifestyle and interest attributes. It empowers marketers to precisely target their ideal audiences and communicate with them on a personal level. It also gives the companies that use it insights needed to anticipate behavior, attitudes, and preferences for their most profitable customers and to communicate with them in their preferred channels with messages that resonate. That is, personally relevant and timely messages. The Mosaics use property characteristics in terms of housing, demographic characteristics, socioeconomic characteristics, location characteristics, and financial measures. So it uses these 5 aspects of an individual to build a profile. And here on the right, we have what those particular areas look like in terms of data that is collected. The result is the Mosaic family tree, which includes a number of groups: power elites, flourishing families, suburban styles, autumn years, family unions, significant singles, singles and starters, and things like this. And then it has that broken down into even smaller groups, and you'll notice that the largest of these groups maybe has 2.25% or so of the population, and some of these have less than 0.5% of the population. I have here some baby boomers, my group C, baby boomers, aging of Aquariuses, and next to them are golf carts and gourmets. These are obviously senior groups. The other approach to this is something called Claritas's Prizm Premier. This combines socio-economic, demographic, and geographic data to help you to understand and engage your customers and prospects. Prizm Premier classifies every U.S. household into one of 68 unique segments, and any customer list or survey can be coded with Prizm Premier to identify profitable, sustainable opportunities. The result are 68 different profiles or lifestyle clusters. Those are broken down into urban, suburban, second city, town and rural, and also based on affluency from high to low wealth and resources available. So that goes all the ways from the young digeratis and upper crusters and Middleburg managers and country squires all the way down to Metro grads, park bench seniors, simple pleasures, and bedrock America. Some of my favorite clusters include kids in cul-de-sacs, young and influential, campers and camos. This previously was known as shotguns and pickups, park bench seniors. And so my thought is always that Claritas has great names for their lifestyle clusters. Each household and each individual in the country is then categorized into one of these 68 different cluster codes, and this then can be added directly to your database with appended data. Some questions that Claritas's Prizm can answer is: who are my best customers? Where can I find trade areas with the most households in my Prizm Premier target groups? And which segments have the best response rates to my mail campaigns? In summary, profiling is all about creating that 360-degree view of customers. That includes behavioral data, demographic data, attitudinal and psychographic data, typically executed in cluster coding, and of course, life events.